Well, here I am once again, and I have an opinion piece on unmasking or masking during coronavirus. And I want to express that this is an opinion, okay? And we are allowed to have opinions in America, good, bad, and indifferent. And indifferent, it doesn't matter. We are allowed to have our opinions, and when those opinions get censored, we are no longer free. So, to give you a little bit of my background, I have a specialty in neurodevelopment. That's how the brain develops, what goes wrong with it, and what you can do to fix it. and I went to a neuro academy and I studied a bunch of stuff with a neuro institute. And one of the things that we studied was masking. And it's a therapy for brain injured children, whether they're injured from a traumatic brain injury or a vaccination injury or a drug injury or something that happened in the womb. We studied the effects of carbon dioxide and masking on the brain and how carbon dioxide works in the body. So what we would do is we take a mask, a pediatric mask, if they were small, adult mask, a medical mask with a bag on it. And the same principle is taking a paper bag and rebreathing your own carbon dioxide. And what we found is that carbon dioxide causes vasodilation. So the brain senses that the carbon dioxide levels are going up, and it opens up the capillaries, it opens up the pathways for more oxygen to flow, and you could actually reach injured parts of the brain better by using this masking therapy. And how we did the masking therapy is we would have the parent of the child, I'm speaking especially about children here, and you would hold the mask or the paper bag over their mouth and nose and have them rebreathe their carbon dioxide for maybe 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. And what you were looking for was that reflex breath, where it's totally reflex, where the brain says, wait, we're not getting enough oxygen, we're taking over. And then the brain does the reflex. And as soon as you see that reflex, then you stop doing the masking. And now for the next few minutes, the vasodilation has occurred and the new fresh oxygen travels into the capillaries and into different parts of the brain, especially beyond a brain injury into the brain injured portions of the brain. And we compared this to, eliciting the reflex breath for like throwing cold water on you. Like you get in the shower and the water's cold and you go, and it's a total reflex, but it doesn't come with the vasodilation. So I just want to talk a minute about that. And I worked with respiratory therapists. I've had respiratory therapists work for me in clinics, and I've had all my colleagues recommend this therapy, the masking therapy, and patients. A lot of you out here following me on social media, some of you are patients that have had this prescribed in a program, okay? Or you are following me because of another neurodevelopment specialist who has also done this. And some of the neurodevelopment colleagues I have follow me also on social medias. So I've got a lot of experience with hyperbaric oxygen therapy where you get in this big chamber and you pump it full of pressure, and that helps to make the molecules of oxygen and even pathogens and even different things that are stuck in tissues, it makes them smaller and they're able to pass through. Because like in my experience with diving and submarines and stuff like that, when you're under pressure in a hyperbaric situation, the oxygen, I think it's 14 to 16 feet, I'm not sure exactly which, I forgot, but every 14 feet or so is one atmosphere, especially if you're a diver, you need to know this. And your oxygen gets reduced in half by mere pure compression. All right, so the further you dive, the more hyperbaric you go, the smaller things get. So I went to the NIH website. Actually, I Googled, let's see what I Googled. I Googled, can wearing a mask cause metabolic acidosis, which is a medical term. And I came to the NIH, the first article on top. NIH, this article is written before coronavirus, before masking, and they talk about lactic acid and the buildup of lactic acid due to masking. I will quote some of this one article. First of all, it said symptoms include nausea, vomiting, fast breathing, and lethargy when you're starting to run low on oxygen and your CO2 levels are coming up. Treatment depends on the cause. Sodium bicarbonate can reduce the acidity in the blood. See, we are causing a state, if we're wearing a mask too much, if we're rebreathing our carbon dioxide, then we are causing a different problem in our body. It says anaerobic respiration yields 18 times fewer ATP molecules, which are energy molecules, and they have the reference to that. This is the NIH. It has 18 times fewer ATP molecules than does aerobic respiration. And so it's not nearly as efficient. However, it does allow movement to continue at least for a while. One of the end products of aerobic respiration is carbon dioxide, which can be removed during exhalation. Carbon dioxide levels in the exhaled breath rarely reach more than 4 to 5%, even at the extreme. But if it did climb higher, and it can when you're wearing a mask, trust me, carbon dioxide can cause disorientation, confusion, and even death. The main end product of anaerobic respiration, which is lack of oxygen and too much carbon dioxide, is lactic acid that is released from the muscles into the blood. There are buffering mechanisms in the body that tolerate lactic acid additions, but these mechanisms have limited capacity. Once this capacity is reached, there's no other source of energy for the muscles, and all muscular activity must cease. You are hurting your muscles when you are going into an anaerobic situation. Continues on, this capacity to tolerate lactic is called the maximum oxygen depth, because all the lactic acid must be reformulated into pyruvate at the end of exercise, and this requires oxygen. So if you're actively doing something and wearing a mask, you are really increasing the effects of this. Buffering the blood, he says, furthermore, against lactic acid formation during anaerobic respiration produces extra carbon dioxide that can be exhaled. This extra carbon dioxide acts as a respiratory stimulant that leads to hyperventilation or harder and deeper breathing. So this is straight from the NIH, and they have multiple references. And I highly recommend you take my opinion and you do your own research. You come to your own conclusions, right? So the thing about masks, right? Not only does it raise your CO2 levels, but it does not filter viruses. Okay, a mask will not filter virus. In fact, counterintuitively, it will actually help collect pathogens, especially because a lot of these masks are electrostatically charged. So they collect pathogens, they increase the CO2, they increase your lactic acid, increases cardio strain. This was on the NIH. It raises your adrenaline. So, causes acidosis in your body and in your blood when you are chronically hyper carbon dioxide. And rebreathing in a mask can do this. And I'm a cancer nutritionist also, and cancer is generally a disease of acidosis, right? So what we're doing when we become acidic, our environment becomes acidic, especially like in the lungs, we are inviting more long-term diseases. We think we're in a short-term battle here, but we are actually causing other problems. And again, this is my opinion. There are other medical experts that have the same opinion, but you have to go and you have to ferret this out. So I was asked the other day, I was in a store and somebody says, "You don't have a mask on. Do you have a medical condition?" And it made me think, well, I have a mental condition, I have a physical condition, and I guess I also have a medical condition. What is that condition? Is it good, bad, or indifferent? And frankly, it's none of their business. But I said, yes, I have a medical condition. Now, my medical condition happens to be pretty darn fair for the most part. So I have my challenges from post-polio, but oh golly, and speaking of post-polio, and going back to the neurodevelopment and the golden arm syndrome, where the children are barrel-chested and small lung capacity, I did masking in my 20s, masking to increase my lung capacity, to develop my lungs, to make my chest actually became broader, bigger, and my lungs expanded. So I've had a couple of recent golden hour syndrome patients, so I'm just kind of throwing that shout out to them. I wrote a letter to Costco. It's one store nationwide. They have said you wear a mask in our store, or you don't come in our store. So I wrote a letter of protest, and I said, what if you already had COVID-19? Why would you wear a mask? And I had a few of my little arguments, and I wrote it to the CEO, Jeff, let me get his name right, almost as bad as mine, Jelinek, Jelinek, and he wrote me back, and I have to presume that it wasn't him. I have to presume that it was somebody there reading his emails and answering for him, because it was not very coherent. And he did say, in closing, he said, "I do appreciate your opinion, but it does not overtake CDC." Period. That's what he said. And so he obviously hired somebody to represent him, or he actually said this himself. And he's either in an awful big hurry or whatever. But he did not answer my question. So I had I've had several of my posts taken down by moderators, right? Because my opinion might cross what a moderator thinks. And then they will delete my video. And they don't even have to tell me why they deleted it. They just say that it violates community standards, right? So I've had an argument going on this. But once our opinions are moderated and deleted, we are no longer free. Okay? When the thought police take over, we are no longer free. And here we are. We're right here on the cusp of it. I'm not afraid of debate and arguments on my media pages. People come on and we have heated, wonderful debates. I mean, let's say enthusiastic debates. And one guy came on just a few days ago, and he said, well, this is felonious behavior. If you do not wear a mask, it is exactly the same as if I, talking about him, go out, get drunk, drive, and kill a bunch of people. It's exactly the same. And I'm like, wow, this is felonious behavior? I'm not even sure where to go with that. So I tried to have a debate with him right there on my Facebook wall, of all places, and he started using bad words. So I had to censor him. I had to say, hey, guy, I'm deleting your post. You're welcome to come back and restate it without the cuss words, and we can continue this. Well, he apparently couldn't do that. So, well, in America, we ought to be free to make our own medical assertions, to make our own medical determinations. We have the right to say, I want to be vaccinated, I don't want to be vaccinated. I want hypertension drugs, or, I'd rather change my diet and lifestyle. We have that option in America so far, but we are losing that daily. And this is a caution to you people. And you're welcome to delete me at any time or stop. If my opinion doesn't agree with yours, that's fine. It is your opinion, but I don't mind a little spirited debate even. So be aware, people, because our rights are being encroached upon, okay? And we can't allow this to happen. So think it through, grow in education, and be wise, be smart. All right. God bless. See you next time.